The light won't stop flickering. I'm squeezing my eyes shut, too paralyzed with fear to move, too helpless to reach for the phone by my bed. I live alone. There is no one to call out to. No way I'm going to make it out of this alive. Not if it sees me. Every time I steal a peek, let my lids slip open the slightest bit. I watch the faint nightlight at the far end of my room flicker, and I immediately can't breathe. Now my eyes are pried open, watching it. I can't feel my limbs, pounding adrenaline rushing through me like fire as I sweat bullets. I can only hear the sound of my pulse thundering in my ears, only feel the way my muscles spasm with panic, preparing to run at the slightest sound. But everything is silent, gruesomely silent. I steal another glance. Against my best interests, again flinching as the light in my room goes dark before reappearing seconds later. It's not flickering. That is what I had first assumed when I awoke in the dead of night, its piercing blue hue reminding me that I had forgotten to turn it off. I had groggily begun to sit up, rustling my covers slightly only to come to a stop mid-stretch. The light was far away, doing little to illuminate anything around it. But I could immediately tell something was wrong. The way it flickered, it wasn't natural. It was too regular, and instead of dimming and brightening in random patterns, it simply cut off completely, only to seemingly turn back on seconds later. Nothing in my vacant house made a sound, not so much as a floorboard creaking. And yet, for the first time ever in my house, I knew I wasn't alone. The light wasn't flickering. The light isn't flickering. Something is crossing in front of it. Something is pacing back and forth in my room. I don't know what to do. It's so dark that I can just barely see the foot of my bed. I couldn't possibly see whatever is in here with me. Sometimes it stops directly in front of the light for several seconds, other times pausing barely to the side of it, just slightly obscuring its glow. I can't tell which way it's facing, but I swear I can feel its eyes on me. I don't think it's ever looked away. I think it's waiting for me to move. The more I crane my ears, try to listen to its shuffling, the less I seem to hear. It moves so quietly. Sometimes I swear I can barely make out a gangly, horrendous form moving in jagged, surreal motions, but the darkness is unforgiving and deceptive. The bulging, decayed eyes staring me down turn out to be nothing but inky blackness, the limb reaching for me nothing but empty vastness. I stayed in this state for God knows how long, too petrified to move, too certain of the creature's existence to risk a single breath. I didn't dare swivel my eyes to take a glance at the LED clock on my bedside, but it felt like hours upon hours passed. The light never stopped cutting in and out, the creature's gaze never letting up. At one point, however, the light remained on for an unusually long time. I wouldn't believe it, though. Wouldn't let my guard down or risk letting my stinging eyes so much as blink. I stayed this way, and yet the sun refused to shine through my windows, the dead of night seeming to extend for an eternity as I waited. The light hadn't turned off in nearly 2 hours, as I softly counted in my head, my muscles wrought with burning agony as I refused to let them relax. It wasn't long before I began to let my guard slip, however. Even having the audacity to rethink my previous fears. Wasn't it more plausible the light was flickering? If something was moving in front of it, if something was in here with me, I surely would have heard something, anything, in all that time. Either way, the room was now somehow quieter than dead silence, a strangely surreal state in which I'm sure the drop of a pin would have sounded like thunder. But no sounds came, no pin dropped, and not a single shape moved in the darkness. I tested my luck, feeling my dried-out eyes begging to be refreshed by just one small, split-second movement. My lids twitched against my best efforts, and maybe another several minutes passed before they snapped closed for less than a second. I immediately tensed again as I wrenched them open, feeling my heart rate spike as the darkness loomed in at me. And yet nothing moved. The light remained on. All was silent. I blinked again. Nothing. I let my weight sink into the bed. Nothing. I took one breath, then another. Nothing came screaming out of the darkness. No horrid figure appeared at the foot of my bed to gore me. There was nothing. And that's when my eyes flashed to my bedside clock to read the LED display. I froze solid. The numbers should have been visible in the darkness, their soft glow reaching my eyes. And yet only darkness greeted me, as the thing stood in front of it.